Okay, so we are now live. Um, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, Philippines. Good afternoon, Indonesia. Good afternoon, Southeast Asia, and to wherever you are right now. This is your Feministang Filipino, Shaira Cruz. Welcome back to another episode of Everyday Feminism. And with me, once again, is our kachikahan from Indonesia. Let us all welcome Iga Agustina.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Ika. Good afternoon, and also selamat siang to our fellow from Indonesia and to you all from other countries, and also to our guests. Hopefully, we are all in good condition. So, today is our everyday feminism, a way of life. So, today is the episode 4, yeah, episode 4 or episode 3 of everyday feminism. So what is everyday feminism? So everyday feminism is a series discussion organized by Kalyana Mitra Indonesia and Women's Legal and Human Rights Bureau Philippines, and also Voice to amplify the stories and experience of women and girls, also to build cross-country feminist solidarity in Southeast Asia regarding how they live as feminists in their daily life. So through this program, we want to introduce the way of life by applying the feminist value in every behavior or action in our personal and daily lives. So, Shahira?
So, WLB and Kalyanamika are both Weave networks or the Weaving Women's Voices in Southeast Asia. So, I forgot to add the logo here, but later we will flash it. So, Weave is a feminist network that across Southeast Asia. So, 6 countries involved: Philippines, Indonesia, Brunei, Myanmar, Thailand, and Brunei. So I hope I didn't forget one of our members. So that's Weave, and um, we're on our third episode this week, as Ika mentioned. And to refresh our viewers, last time we discussed feminism in relationships and friendships with feminists from Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. So imagine in that less than 2 hours, you were able to talk about consent, communication, and safe spaces among many themes that arose in our conversation about relationship and friendships. Ika?
Yeah. And we also gain a lot of stories, experience from our guests about how they tackle the stigma and also discrimination related to feminist and relationships. And we also gain insight about misconception that happen and are faced by them and how they address it. So this week episode will be as interesting because we will be talking about family and feminism today with a brand new set of guests from Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore.
Yes, and as we all know, here in Southeast Asia, it is quite common to have close ties with our families, regardless of our status or our age and whatnot. So just to share, here in the Philippines, in particular, for many of us, it's common to share a home with your immediate and extended family, even when you're an adult or you have a family of your own. So, for example, I'm 24 years old and I still live with my mom. So, I'm just wondering, is this the same for Indonesia, Ika?
Uh, I think generally it is the same here in Indonesia because it is common to share home with your extended family. Yeah, me also as a married woman still living with my extended family. So it is because all my older brothers have already moved to a new house.
Mm.
So I have to stay because according to my village tradition, it is a girl who will like inherit their parents' house. So, but that doesn't mean that I can have a new house. So I think it is depend on the situation and also the condition of its family. But in general, it's still common here to live with the extended family, Shahira.
Yeah. Also, it also depends huge on class standing. Of course, if you like us, if I can't afford to move out of the house, I have no choice but to still live with my mom. But yeah. And as comforting as having your family close to you, it's inevitable to have issues and such as lack of personal space. Of course, since you don't have your own space, or if you only have your room, or like many Filipinos still living with their families, it's rare to have your own room or your own space because the house isn't that big. And of course, open communication is also tough between family members, especially when you have your own interests, or have your own personal interests with you. And feminists experience these issues most especially when our beliefs clash with the more traditional notions that are embedded within our families, our culture, and our practices.
Yeah, and that is what we will be focusing on today here on everyday feminism. So, without further ado, let's go to know our guests. So, maybe for the each guest, what we want here for our guests at first are pretty basic. So please introduce yourself, including age and also a little background, maybe of your work or what you are enjoy doing right now, and also share a little bit on your family. Do you live with your family or by yourself? So to start us off, let's call on our guest from Vietnam, Yen Nguyen. So please. The floor
Uh,
is yours.
Thank
Please
you.
introduce
Thank
yourself.
you. Yes, it's very nice to be here with you all today. I'm In from Vietnam. I'm based in Saigon. Um, okay, so my pronoun is she, her, or they, them. And I'm in the late 30s. Um, right now, I work in ASEAN Suji Caucus, which is the
Yen, can you speak
organization.
louder, Yen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, better now. So I work in ASEAN Suji Caucus, which is the organization on LGBTIQ rights in Southeast Asia. And most of the time I work at home or I just hop around the coffee shops to work. Right now I live on my own together with other two cats. And we live in the same building with my parents who just moved to near my place after like 20 years. We live far away from each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yen. For our second guest from Singapore, Jean Chong.
Hi everyone. My name is Jean.
Halo semuanya, nama saya Jean.
Oh, I can hear the Indonesian. Let me switch it off. I am based in Singapore. I run
Saya
a
berbasis di
LGBTQ
Singapura
feminist group here.
dan saya berasal
And
dari
my
organisasi
age is forever 21.
yang
So
concern
at
terhadap
the
isu
moment,
LGBT.
Yen, excuse
Sorry.
Shaira.
I can hear the
You have to mute the audio. Mute because you're the
Shahira, can you make me a host first? Because I think it need to set the interpretation again.
Okay, okay. Hold on. Okay.
boleh?
Apakah sudah bisa dilanjutkan?
Ika, are we proceeding or we need a couple of minutes, Ika?
Halo Mbak Anti,
Halo,
sudah lihat buttonnya Mbak?
sudah? Saya klik yang English ya. Oke, can we start?
Yeah, can we just try?
Apakah kita
Auntie, can you
dan
speak?
mengubahnya? Dan kita mencoba translation-nya.
Someone needs to speak and then Auntie will try to translate.
Saya akan mencoba mentranslate dalam bahasa Indonesia. Siapapun bisa
Yeah,
berbicara
we can
sekarang.
still hear Auntie.
You have to
Halo.
unmute the original audio. So can you try now, Auntie? Can you
Ya.
stop?
Apakah ada yang bisa mendengar suara saya? Apakah ada yang bisa mendengar suara saya?
Okay,
Halo?
so for us, we need to press the English button and unmute the original, mute the original audio so you don't hear the Indonesian translation.
Mentranslate dalam bahasa Indonesia.
So Jean can continue. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I can still hear translation no, when you're talking. Yeah, I'm on English and I can still hear her.
Saya masih bisa mendengar.
You have to mute the original audio. So all the speakers, you need to go to the interpretation and then you have to mute original audio and then you can shift from English to Indonesian.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I will try that.
Jadi Anda semua harus mematikan di tombol interpretation, mute
okay, so anyway,
original
I
audio.
was making an introduction to myself. The last part, I was saying that I don't live with my biological family. I live quite a distance away. Yeah, back to the host.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jean.
Terima kasih, Jean.
Sorry for that. Okay. So, going back to the introduction of our
Kembali
guest,
kepada narasumber kita.
Here, Auntie. How do we fix that?
Apakah Anda mendengar suara saya? Halo?
Yeah, I can still hear Auntie. Ika, are you there? How do we fix this? Oh yeah, okay. Okay now? Okay, so continuing on from Jean, let's go with our speaker from Malaysia, Manohara Subramania. Is Mano with us? Mano? Okay, so we'll get back to Mano. Let's call on our guest from Indonesia first, Rena Herdiani.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you
Hi,
hear
Rena.
my voice? Yes, can you hear my voice?
Yes, very clear.
Yes, so my name is Rena Herdiani. I'm 44 years old and I work in Kalana Mitra. And I joined Kalana Mitra almost about 20 years. So I learned about gender and about feminists when I joined Kalana Mitra. And I'm married and I have 3 sons and I live separate with my mother's house. So I live with my husband and my sons, and also we have the domestic worker at home. So but we live near my mother's house.
Oh, that's it. Thank you, Rena.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you Rena. Mbak Rena, I usually call her. So Shahira, our guest today has a diverse background related on the family, age, profile, and also, of course, it's our guest must have an interesting stories and experience about how they interpret feminism on their daily life. So maybe including how they fight the discrimination and also the violence. Yeah, and that story and experience are what we want to hear today. So now that we have some idea who we are speaking with today, so let's go on, let's get on with the question and answer portion.
Okay, thank you, Ika. So, just like the previous week, I think it's quite intriguing to begin with a belief commonly directed towards feminists. So, to our guests, our first question is: how true is it that once feminism ends, once she becomes a wife or a mother, or simply voluntarily engages with a reproductive work at home? So, the more we become involved with our role within the family, the less feminist do we become. Is that true, or is just a false belief? So this time, let's call on Manu. So maybe she can also introduce herself since we didn't hear from her earlier. So Manu, can you please introduce yourself and share with us your thoughts on this question? Um, I'm not sure if Manohara is still with us or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear my name correctly. Okay, okay. My name is Manuhara, and I'm 26. Oh, sorry, I am 62 years old. I said it the other way, So I have been around a long time, yeah. And the feminism that I understand is not like how you young people understand feminism. You all probably went to university and learned about feminism, but I came through a struggle of my own experiences, and it is like through my experiences that I came to understand that the struggle that I am fighting is about feminism. So I learned the word later, but I was already doing everything that a feminist does. So, and yeah, you wanted me to answer that question also. Shall I continue?
Please, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, you were saying that the myth about when women know about feminism. I have many friends also who, together with me, struggle about women's rights. And this is, I'm talking like about 25, 30 years ago, yeah, when it was, feminism was a word that was really not heard of. And cultural and religious values were what we were brought up with, that is the only ideology that we know, that if you are a woman, this is how you must behave. If you are a man, this is your role. And so we are caught in this struggle. And during those days, I myself also never had that much of support compared to the support that the family had. So my views at that time was very limited view compared to the family's views, the relatives' views, the people on the other side, on their cultural views, on their religious views at what women should be, women's roles are. But as I found that through my experiences, that it is important for me to believe and do what I want. So I put up a fight for it. But many of my friends had given up because of family values. So they got married and they moved on. But at the same time, what they have learned about feminism is still there with them. I believe that once you learn something and this is the right thing, and although you give in to your family and you get married, but they're still talking to me about their views. They still hold that belief, and when they are much older, they came back. Some of my friends even came back to support in the women's organization, the women's equality organization, which is I am part of today. So it has its is, you can't say no or yes, but I think it also has this kind of experiences. Yeah, I will, that will be my my share. Thank you.
Thank you, Manohara. That's a really good perspective. To have since I'm younger, I actually learned so much from academe. So it's good to hear of course we're all working from whether academic or experience, maybe both equally important. But great, thank you for sharing that, Manohara. So our next guest, may we call on to answer the question? Who's our next guest? Rena. Rena. Rena
Ya,
Herdiani, Miss
ya,
Indonesia.
pengalaman saya sebagai sebagai feminis adalah ya, walaupun memang saya memilih menikah dan untuk memiliki anak, tapi saya berusaha menerapkan nilai-nilai feminis dalam kehidupan keluarga saya. Ya, jadi karena apa ya, ada memang mitos atau pendapat yang salah tentang di masyarakat kita bahwa, dan juga mungkin di antara gerakan perempuan atau gerakan masyarakat sipil, bahwa jika seorang feminis sudah menikah dan memiliki anak, ya mereka bukan feminis lagi gitu. Ini pendapat yang salah. Karena berdasarkan pengalaman saya, yang penting adalah bahwa pilihan untuk menikah dan memiliki anak ini adalah pilihan kita sendiri secara sadar. Gitu. Jadi bukan karena paksaan atau bukan karena desakan dari keluarga atau masyarakat. Ya, jadi saya berusaha menerapkan nilai-nilai feminis itu dengan secara tidak frontal gitu ya di dalam keluarga. Ya, karena saya mencoba menerapkannya secara perlahan-lahan gitu. Karena awalnya ketika saya menikah, ya ya, karena saya sebelum menikah, awal-awal pernikahan saya juga belum tahu tentang feminisme gitu. Ya, jadi ketika saya belajar di kalangan tentang feminisme, maka saya mulai menerapkannya dan memang ya misalnya dengan cara selalu melakukan komunikasi dan juga diskusi dengan suami ketika melakukan pengambilan keputusan. Ya, dan juga mendidik anak-anak saya untuk tidak malu melakukan pekerjaan rumah tangga seperti membersihkan rumah. Ya, dan biasanya memang kan apa namanya, saya sudah mulai cerita ya bagaimana dulu saya juga menikah itu sebenarnya saya dijodohkan oleh orang tua ketika saya kuliah di tingkat akhir, dan awalnya saya tidak mau untuk dijodohkan. Tapi
my husband right now. And after 1 year knowing my husband, I felt more comfort, and I do can discuss and get along with my husband so far, and I am really happy to have my husband in my marriage now. I think that's all, Sarah.
Speak up
Thank you.
louder.
Thank you, Mbak Rena, for sharing.
So Mbak Rena shared about how she applying the feminist value in her family. So she like apply it by the smooth communication and on how she introduced the feminist value to her family. For example, she try by the education for her children, and also on how divided the house on household work. So I think it's interesting, yeah, to hear about her experience. So thank you, Mbak Rena. So for the next guest, maybe Jen.
Hey,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
You can hear me,
Yeah,
right?
please share.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so basically, I have 2 points. What does queer, as a lesbian woman, what does queer feminism says about family? I think for the lived realities for many lesbian, bisexual, or transgender women is that uh, the idea of family is patriarchal, because a lot of times our family reject us. So to us, our extended family, which is outside of your blood family and biological family, is more important to us, because they are the ones who accept us and support us and embrace us. So that's one. So I want to challenge the idea of what family means, because so it's been defined quite narrowly. Secondly, family is often the site of violence for so many of us. In many, many Asian societies, we've done studies from East Asia all the way to Southeast Asia. Gender-based violence is such a big problem because first, we're women, but we intersect with our identity, our sexual orientation, and that creates all kinds of problems when we live in a traditional family structure. We look at relations in a hierarchical way. So as feminists, I think we need to challenge this kind of structure as well, because so many of us as women are trapped in this cultural arrangement around this idea that family should be this way. Your family should be made up of your father, mother, and parents or your relatives. But so that's the 2 points that I really want to challenge before we go into further sharing about how I deal with my own biological family. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jean. So that's so far we've had experiences, and then the positive side as what Rena has presented, and of course Jean, we have violence, or the theme of violence, which we will explore more, or we hope to explore more later. So let's call on our next speaker again to answer also the question.
Yeah. As a queer woman, I also would like to echo Jean's thoughts about the 2 points. So I think it's very important to talk about feminism and how we practice it in daily lives, because usually we talk about feminism in a bigger context of like activism or community building, etc., or lobby or gender equality, but in a more institutionalized uh, way. However, family to many people, especially the LGBTIQ community members, is the place where actually we need to negotiate the space, not only with our parents, but also with, for example, our sisters or brothers or siblings, and especially our partners. Many times I heard questions about like, okay, you two women or two men or two persons living with each other. So who is the role of like a man, or who plays the role of a woman, like portraying the heterosexual norm on the queer community or queer couples. So that's the place that we usually recognize or question ourselves. Okay, is this behavior or this thought reflect the way that the society want to put on ourselves? Or is it actually the way we choose to do? We make decision to like to have the body autonomy, or we have our agency. So yes, I just would like to add one more point that family and feminism relates with each other closely, and that's the actual battlefield that the queer people have to work on every day.
Thank you, Yen. So, very how not very good. The word I'm looking for a word, but it's not very good, but very informative perspectives from our four guests today. And we can see how coming from different backgrounds, here's where the diversity of our backgrounds and our age and even experiences come in. So as we go along, we will explore more or deeper in these conversations. So but before we proceed to our next question, so if you're watching us right now as an audience here at Zoom or watching us from Facebook live stream, you can send in questions or shout outs or comments to be part of the discussion with us. Right now, we will shout out to Helen Dayo and Kuntia Chan, saying hi to 26-year-old Manohara. So those are from our Facebook page. So if you have
Thank
any
you.
more
Thank you.
questions and comments, send it over and we will read them. And if you have questions for our guests, send them in. So thank you again for answering our first question on debunking that common belief. So yeah, so as we said, we're coming from different perspectives, yet we have similar experiences or as similar as it can get. So for our second segment, or we'll now explore deeper in the challenges that we women and feminists experience within the family. So our next set of questions will be taking account of the personal experiences of our guests and those who are watching us. And for those who are watching us, you may also share your own stories. So to our guests, our next question is, what are the challenges to being a feminist? So whether you're a daughter, you're a mother, or you're a wife or a partner, a sister, or as an aunt, how do you translate feminism as a value in your own home or your family? So maybe we can start with what are the challenges that, particular challenges that you experience or have experienced or continue to experience, and how do you use feminism to negotiate in these situations? So this time, since we called on Manohara and Yen first earlier, let's call on Rena. to share. So I guess we have to how do
Yeah.
we fix the interpretation so the our audience can also hear Rena in English. So because I'm also monitoring the live stream and on Facebook we they can't hear or it can't be heard what Rena's saying. So how do we do that?
Yes. Okay. So
Oh,
I try to
Rena.
speak in English. So in so in my experience, so the big challenge to practice the feminist values in the family is from the big family. Big family. So for me, my husband's already clear about the gender equality because I try to introduce gender equality to my husband, but not with a soft way. So actually, my husband is very democratic, and he thinks as long as I'm happy, and I also can, I also have time. I also have time to have time for my children. So uh, he is okay. So sometimes when, for instance, for the yeah, for small things like if my mother-in-law come to my house, yes, because yes, and usually because my husband is the only one son, so she is very is her parents his parents is very usually provide service to my husband for food, for drink, and then when my mother and my mother-in-law come to my house, and then my husband's they make his drink by himself, and then she asked to my husband, why you making the drink by yourself, because your wife should should make the drink for you. Something like that, so small thing like that.
Okay. Thank you, Barena.
Yes, and it also same with my mother because my mother also from the old generation, from the very conservative family. So she said that you have to make the drink and serve food for your husband because your husband is very tired for working. So you need to have time for making for give drink and then making food before you go to office.
Yeah, so maybe just a follow-up question, Rena. How do you in these situations, how do you negotiate or how do you use feminism to negotiate when you're faced with those experiences?
Yeah. So I try to talk to my mom and to my mother-in-law. Uh, yes. So because my husband and I'm very busy because both of us are working. So we think we don't have so much time to making food or give to make a drink to to husband or so I think he can do by himself, and then my husband also sometimes he makes a drink, and also if I forget to eat because very busy for Zoom meeting, he get some food for me and making drink. So I try to make my mother-in-law and my mother, so we are no problem to support each other.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rena. So I think uh to share my own personal experience as well. I find it a struggle to be listened to when I'm within
Yeah.
my own
Yes,
family.
and because we have
Sorry.
a
Okay.
domestic worker at
Sorry.
home, so for doing the domestic work is not big problem for us. Uh, but me, I and my husband, but for children, so I and my husband very concerned, and then give more time to educate, and also to especially for my little son. And then also my husband also still has hobby to cook, and if he has time, so he cook for us even we have domestic worker. And the challenge is how we consistent to educate our children, son and daughter, to to practice uh, feminist values in a simple way. Is in the first time, my son, the first son, he doesn't want to wash the dishes after eat, and then cleaning his room. But I try to support him to do that, because I said that this is if you already married and you live far away from the family, you should be independent. So you should do by yourself, cleaning the house, and also cleaning the room.
Peran laki-laki atau perempuan.
Okay, Shara,
Oh, okay. Thank you,
that's
Mbak
my
Rena.
sharing.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Verena, for sharing. Because I thought you have another point to talk. So, okay. Thank you, Mbak Rena, for sharing. So, for the next guest, maybe we invite Yen. Yen, can you share about how
Yeah.
what are the challenges that you face to
Okay.
being a feminist in your family?
Um, I used to think that coming out as a lesbian and being accepted as who I am was the most struggling thing happening in my family, which it happened like 8 years ago. And it was in the context that my parents tried to introduce me to some people, like people's sons living around the place where I lived, because I lived far away from them. And at the time, I had a partner, and I thought that, okay, mm, being a family means being honest with each other. And I hide my sexuality to my families for like so long. And the world should be broken down. So that's how I came out to my mom. And I thought that um, her first reaction was to blame herself on raising me, that I turned out to be a lesbian. But then after that, my mom and my dad talk with each other, and they also share with some close relatives. And then it's like my bigger family understood and respected me as who I am, and me until like at this age, getting having like getting married. I say that I wouldn't get married. Oh, has been something familiar to them already. So I thought that it would be the most struggling thing to me. But until now, and looking back all the path we went through as a family, and also working as an activist and a feminist, I realized that the most struggle is the internalized sexism and misogyny, which has been transferred from this generation to the next generation in my whole family. For example, when I look at my mom, she was born in a very big family, like with 9 siblings, and as a daughter, but not the like the first or second daughter, but like the one of the youngest ones. She had to do many things to take care of the big family, um, and then or and then after that, getting married to my father. She also had to take care of the husband's family, and also got struggle with having the, in Vietnamese we say, the harmony with my father's mother. It- that's something very normalized in, I don't know in which in other countries, but in Vietnam, people say the relation between the the wife and the mother-in-law is always like not in a harmony way. Uh, when I was young, I thought that okay, maybe because like people wanted to like sharing or not sharing love, or caring or not caring, all the attention and care surrounding my father as the pillar of the family. But then I see that it's not like that. It's the patriarchy that has made every woman, every LGBTIQ people in this society uh, forget who we are, and just take the responsibility to take care of other people. So when we take care of other people, we seem to forget about ourselves. We seem to ignore about our emotions, our feeling. So recently, my parents moved here and live near me, and so like every day we had daily conversations or discussion about things happening around us. And in many times, our conversations or our like daily talk became quite hard, because it tackles the patriarchal behavior, which my father also like got into himself unintentionally, unconsciously, coming from my father's own family, which had like 3 or 4 other brothers, and without sisters himself. Um, so whenever we had that hard talks, usually it's my mother who got quite upset, because all that thoughts or comments or behavior that she had to endure long time ago. And then when I even challenged her a little bit, and she also got upset because of me challenging her. And then we talked it out, and she said that, oh, because when I was so young and I didn't have time to think about myself. And that's why I didn't know how to find a way to express what I wanted uh, to my parents or my brothers and sisters. And I realized that it transfer the ignorance of our own emotion into even like myself, and that can influence other people that close to us, that love us, that care about us. Yeah, so I would say that internalized sexism and misogyny is the struggle I find is so hard every day with my family and even with my ex, that we always have the kind of conversations, the questioning our own behavior, that why it come from, why do I have that thoughts, and always I learned that the background, the history where we were brought up played a very important role in defining ourselves and our agency. Yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Yen. So, I believe you were able also. I was going to follow up with a question of how do you negotiate with your family, but you've brought it up that you have these conversations with them. So that's really nice because I personally relate to that, you know, having wanting to have conversations or safe spaces with my own family. But that's what I wanted to share earlier when I thought Rena was done speaking. But it's a struggle for me to be listened to when I try to talk with my own family. So I don't think my opinion is taken seriously or with as much weight. So I'm still trying to negotiate with that or how I can deal with that. But so thank you, Yen, for I'll be taking note of what you've shared. So maybe I can apply that to my personal experience as well. So next, let's call on Jean.
Oh, hi. Well, before I start sharing a little bit, I remember many years ago, I was at CEDAW and a local women's activist look at me, LGBT activist, what do you know about feminism for you to be at CEDAW? My reply to her is, what do you know about me to think that I don't understand feminism? So, I mean, looking at, since we're talking about family, I think the concept of feminism is pretty entangled in my family with patriarchy, because my mother was abandoned in Singapore because she's a girl, while her parents went back with their sons to China and were very successful, and many of them became doctors. And my paternal grandmother, which is my dad's mom, she had to abandon her child in China to come to Singapore and to sell her for a bag of rice. So she came. So where and also my paternal grandmother is a child bride. It's kind of like in China, there's this thing about if someone has a baby son, if you have a 2-year-old daughter, you give it to the family to be the wife of the baby son, to act as a free domestic worker and also wife when the son grows up. So women were treated that way. And in my family, there's a whole long series of tragedy just because we are women. So I think in my family, there's this overwhelming sense of the lack of opportunities as women. My mom never had the opportunity to go beyond primary school, even though she's super smart, much smarter than my father is. A society dictates how much she can progress and what she can do. And when she was younger, at 15 or 16, she was a domestic worker as well. So I mean, I totally understand that kind of struggle, and she had to struggle with poverty, the lack of opportunity. So when it came to me, my paternal grandmother and mom was never super traditional or conservative, that they feel like women should study more because society doesn't give us a lot of opportunities. But men don't have to study a lot because you can use your strength, your labor, you can get a job purely because you're a man. So that kind of framed my family life. But sometimes my mom still holds a little bit traditional ideas, but usually not very stubborn or strong about it, because she never forgot. Even my paternal grandmother never forgot that they never had a chance in life, and life decides for them. So this was sharing story, and I had two nephews, my brother's little kids, 7 years old and 2, and then I have a niece from my sister. So I spent a lot of time with them, but also reinforcing to the boys that they should ask for permission and consent, and girls are equal on.
Oh, yeah. Jean, this
Oh
is.
no,
Oh yeah.
yeah, where Eddie, you heard me. My nephews and sons, right? Yeah, so I spent a lot of time talking to the boys about how girls are equal, or most of the time better than they are. And then my nephew will protest. And my brother and sister were like, why do you not empower the boys as much as the girls? And my reply to them was that the world will empower the boys. They go out there, they'll constantly be empowered of their space and their privilege and their position in life. But the girls, you have to start at home. You have to empower them and give them the strength to face the world who will keep telling them they're not good enough. So that is how I practice feminism at home. But I don't use the word feminism because it doesn't mean anything. But rather the experiences define what feminism is to my family. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jean. So, as also an aunt to my uh nephew and niece, and also an older cousin, my 8-year-old cousins who are boy and girl. As much as possible, especially before the pandemic, where when I could see them almost every day, I would pull them aside and talk to them about the same things, because in our families, I think very prevalent in not just in Asian families, but um, whatever but whatever race, we're reinforcing or we're teaching children the same things that we learned. So and it's hard to unlearn uh, the things we learned through family and the church, especially here in the Philippines, where church is a big influence in families and education. The how patriarchy is so embedded. So that's a really great share, Jean. And I can relate as an aunt myself. It's hard, but since especially the adults are always um like unweaving what you're teaching the children, or they're teaching backwards ideology, whatever. So thank you. And last but not the least, for this segment, let's go again to Manohara. So what are the challenges to being a feminist family member?
Thank you, Shaira. I think for me, from a very young age, you can see I'm a very loud person, and I'm very kasa. I'm very rough since young. That is me. But so when I speak up in my family, they always try to put me back into the box where I should be. You are a girl. It's always reminding me that girls should not speak so much. Girls should not speak so loud. Girls should not sit this way. So it is always reminding of who I am. So, and I am trying to tell my family that this is who I am. This is how loud I am going to be. Even at 62, I'm still loud. So it's not that only when I was younger, I was loud also. But so I'm telling that is just me, accept me as I am. Because I have a brother who is a mama's boy, and he is very soft spoken. So my mother is always comparing, like, oh, you should be like him. You look at him, he listens to me. But if he is rough, it's okay. But you cannot be rough, because it's always reminding that when you are growing older, you are going to get married, you are going to be in a family. and you cannot behave like this with your in-laws or with your husband, so it's like they are trying their level best to mold you into what you are not. So then when I tell my mother, no, yeah, because she tries to explain, because although my mother is more open-minded, she like say, yeah, I can also see what you say. Violence against women is wrong. It's good you're helping people, but at the same time, is also breaking up family. You cannot tell the woman to get out of a violent situation. You must tell her, this is your life, this is your fate, maybe it's your karma. Trying to use all the cultural religious values to say that what happens to the woman is something that she brought upon herself. And then there are also my cousins, my relatives who are trying to say, they are, the ones who are the same age as me. They admire me on one side, but at the same time, they think that I'm a loser in a certain way, like men are afraid of me because, they think that I am demanding too much has a right to be equal with them. And and I remember many, many years ago when I was dating one of the activists in the human rights organization. He himself, although he was a human rights defender, but at that time, he never believed in women's rights. He says that, yeah, it is human right, but at the same time, women have their place. There comes a time when women have to be at home, uh, uphold the family name, must be giving birth and taking care of babies. So we differed there, and I was very shocked because I thought this is the very excellent person that I can share my life with, and we can do things together. But then the reality came that when it comes to women's rights, it has to him it was just to at that certain level. So then this whole idea of this is not our Asian value, this is a Western concept, it only happens in the white people's country, and that we Asian people have our own values. Unfortunately, our women have to suffer, but we have to try to, so trying to say that, trying to put you back into the box lah, that where you came from, remind you that this is the woman's place. Yes, now even when my younger sister went on to study more, went to university, the family thinks that oh, now that women have education, they talk too much, they think too much. So when my sister refused to get married and say that she wants to follow her dreams, she wants to study more, so the family feel that the grip on the person is gone. So my auntie will tell my mother, her sister says, that is why when they are 16-year-old and they don't know how to speak too much about their right, you should catch them and get them married. Then they cannot talk too much. When you allow them to be educated, you allow them the freedom. Now they want to tell you what is right and wrong. So so you can see that in the family. Although I'm explaining to my mother, look, he has 2 legs and 2 hands, and I also have 2 legs and 2 hands. Why must I wash the dishes and not him? So there are very simple examples in the family that we can do together. But I guess it doesn't only just stop in your family. When you go to school, you are reinforced, you learn the same thing. When you when you even take a job, you can see that certain jobs only for women and certain jobs are only for men. So you can see the gender stereotyping is so strong that people keep pushing it and pushing it. And even though I have done so many trainings myself, telling Indian women, because I'm from the Indian origin, and the Indian community, the Hindu community is a very when it comes to culture, they are very strongly bound by culture. So I questioned the Indian women. I said, do you think that it is, I just throw back their own situation. I say, do you think God would have created the men with all power and women without power? The same God that says that he loves us all can treat the women differently and the men differently, give the men different rights so women can see it. But at the end of the day, that awareness is what helps them to break out of the violence that they go through. Although they are very strong culture and religious belief they have, but they can see when we say this is your basic human right. You have to live without violence. You have to live without fear. We are not talking about making men become women and women become men, like how some of them like to say. They think that we are trying to make the women become like men. They think that when we talk about feminism, or we talk about women's right, that we are telling women to beat up the men, or we are just saying that we want equality. We want to live together side by side, and we don't want any violence. We just want a shared responsibility. That is what we are up against. That's what we are fighting. So the fight is still not over. After 30 years of doing what I'm doing, I've come a long way too. I still see women in caught in this domestic violence situation, where they do not have the same rights as the man. So yeah, so the struggle continues.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Manahar.
Shahira.
Yeah. So I want to follow up a question for our three other panelists, because Mano Hara was able to share that at her being a feminist or a women's human rights advocate comes into conflict or becomes a conflict within her family. Are there also instances for Yen, Rena, and Jean where these situation happened or you experienced the same thing? And what did you do, or what do you do when these things or situations take place? So maybe we can ask Yen this time first.
Sharak, could you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Manohara Manohara shared that her being a feminist or a woman's human rights activist becomes a point of conflict for her within the family. So she tries to talk to them, but still it's an unresolved conflict for her family. So do you also experience the same situation? And if you do, or if you've gone through the same situation, what did you do to make your family understand?
Yes, I think for my in my case, I need to like use the different language when mentioning feminism within my family, by like asking or questioning something that has been considered, um, like people consider is just something normal. Um, for example, when we watch TV, and then in Vietnam, the Vietnamese, the national television always like broadcast one way information from the government, because we are in like a one party state. So with the internet, my parents also got to learn many other news from other social media channel that kind of controversial to the news in the TV or the radio that they hear every day. And then they also like question about what they learn from other resources. For example, they made some comment about some activists that work on democracy movement or freedom of speech in Vietnam, or some events that relates to like a police or dictatorship from the government. So that's the place where my role, I thought that I just provided kind of some other stories or facts that I learned from the other information source to provide it to them. So it's like, I think it takes quite a long time because they have been living not in a space or the patriarchal society, but also geographically they move from one space where a lot of things of information, news or media that is monopolized, coming to another place or city that have more voices, that have more like source of information that can also challenge their beliefs or what they have been knowing before. So I think they need time to unlearn themselves from the situation or from what they know. So that's how I try to use the other language or approach so that we can still discuss the issue. For example, the election of Vietnam and how the independent candidates have been portrayed in the social media, and how my personal experience that I got to know them before that or learn from other sources. So we just talk and discuss. And yeah, so that's how I experienced from that.
Thank you, Yen. So let's call Jean.
Oh, I think Yen's more sophisticated than me. So I think a lot of Asian families, I believe a lot of us, I think families are places where there's a lot of unspokenness. I don't think, I at least for my family, there's no like big decorations of love and hugs and all that, or like this idea of coming out like in the West, like come out because it's my personal human rights. But in Asian society, I think that there's discussion that it's really about coming home because you want to be accepted, but with a very different kind of beliefs about personal space. So for me, I think one of the things that helped was sometimes they see news articles about me and my sister-in-law or my brother would cut it out and show my mom. So she's never outrightly say that oh, you're a lesbian or something. She'll be like, oh, your best friend. Did you just change your best friend again? So I think that challenges in some way this idea that the women's bodies only belong to men, and that we have a right to our sexual reproductive health, that we right to choose, and that we are diverse, that some of us have different or so on. Just to make it short, I'll tell you a little story about my nephew again. So over Lunar New Year, I share this with some of you. I was talking to my nephew who's 7, and he was like, oh, we're going through everybody's zodiac sign. Oh, he's born the year of the goat, he's born the year of the rabbit. And then he suddenly paused and looked at me. What is your wife's zodiac sign? And I almost spit out the cookie in my mouth because I never talk about my life or as a lesbian woman or my activism. But what surprises me was also my sister-in-law was sitting next to him. And she just smiled and asked him, oh, why do you ask Auntie Jean that question? And then he was like, oh, I think a woman can be with a man or woman. So this idea that in his mind that women can have choices, and also the fact that my sister-in-law didn't react at all, and she was just like, oh yeah, we all know. So but we just didn't talk about it. So I think sometimes I think sometimes the conversation is very indirect. I don't know if I think the reframing of the language matters, that makes sense to them. And yeah, that's all to it.
Thank you, Jean. So lastly, Rena.
Yes, so in my experience, how we convince our family members, including husbands, on our feminist values, we cannot do it by frontal. I mean, we should do it by gradually and also soft way. Because if we doing that with hard way, I mean, like we angry, we like rebellion, something like that. So they will not accept us. So for me, like when I talk to my mother and my mother-in-law, I try to make her understand uh, that equality between husband and wife, and also in we should educate we treat equal between daughter and son in the family, because in the modern family, it's no problem between this is daughter or son, so they have the same opportunity to get better education, and we have big challenge for our children in the future, for even daughter or son, something like that. So we have to try to convince them and to make them understand step by step, because if like my father, because my father also from conservative family, from Muslim family, and then he said that I should obey to my husband. So if I talk to my father, no, I don't want, because my husband not always good. So maybe he will do violence or something like that. So I don't have to obey to my husband. So if I angry with my father, and then he will angry, and maybe he will not recognize me as her daughter again. So I try to talk and to make him understand with simple language. So and not like educate my parents or my husband, but try to make them understand that becoming uh, equality is very important in the family, and it will make family better, not will make family worse. So if husband and wife support each other and give equal opportunity to develop, so it will be good for the children, for the family. So I try to do that. So we cannot uh, angry and resist frontal to our family. So yes, we should negotiate, always negotiate. So internalize feminist values in our family is very long process, and we should do it consistently and continuously. So sometimes maybe we also becoming dominated with the husband or children, because I think patriarchy is not always in man's mind. So because patriarchy also can be in women's mind. So maybe sometimes I also becoming patriarchy because I want to dominate my husband, but I should realize, because the equal values. So I try to aware if I become dominate to my husband and I control myself, oh, I'm dominate. So I cannot do like that. So I have to respect my husband, and my husband also should respect me. So respect each other is very important in the family, and also especially for son. So we should uh, we should give we should give them like not homework, but we should give them domestic work.
Mm.
I mean, we should make them it's usual to do the domestic work, because sometimes if we have domestic worker at home, some our children, they don't want to do anything related with domestic work. So we try to make them, this is your compulsory or obligation to do this thing. I mean, after for instance, I educate my son. So if you wake up in the morning, so you should make your room clear by yourself. And then if you want to to eat food, and there is no food on the table, because maybe sometimes we don't have time to cook because there is no domestic worker. So you should cook by yourself. So we should educate our children every day,
Yeah.
because yes,
Rena, okay.
yes,
Thank you, Rena. So I think across the guests, it's very similar, or yeah, it's similar across the stories that we're breaking the silence, or as in our own ways, breaking the silence that comes, or that is the patriarch, or as we try to break the patriarchy that is so embedded, deeply embedded in our lives, in our everyday lives. That's why we have everyday feminism. And as women, or as feminists, we recognize that not just men who are the ones who perpetuate them. I'm right. Perpetuate patriarchy. It's also women. Sometimes even ourselves as feminists, we are unconsciously perpetuating, and then we catch ourselves, and then we correct ourselves, because from last week, it's I remember from last week, one of our guests said that feminism is, of course, progressing, or a development that it's not instant, that we change someone else, or we change someone else's perspective, we change ourselves. So yes, and it's also evident that even though there are conflicts within the families, we're trying as hard as we can to educate them, or to convince them, or to try to make them understand that what we're saying, what we're doing has value, and we have our own value beyond what society tries to teach us, or it outside of marriage, outside of being a site of reproduction, or yeah, uh, and from my personal experience, what I do is, when they don't listen to me, I try to make them watch um programs such as this. So if my father is watching, he's in California. I hope he's watching, and I hope he's listening and taking notes, as well as my mom, who's probably downstairs. So I hope they're listening and not just watching right now. So yes, feminism is a progressing discussion, and a negotiation, continuous negotiation, even for us. So Ika.
Okay, thank you for our guests for sharing the stories and also the challenges and also how they negotiate to apply the feminist values in their family. And if you can relate with any of the stories shared here, please don't hesitate to share your story with us here on Zoom or over the Facebook. So we move on for the segment 3, Shahira.
Yeah. So our final segment, again, we're still in the topic of feminism and family. So maybe it was touched on earlier, with the stories you've already shared, the experience you've already shared with us. But again, just to let us, or just to let the viewers know, is it possible to combine values for feminism and family? And if you figured it out, how do you balance it? you figured it out, how, or can you give some tips, or is it tiring? Of course it can be exhausting, but did you ever come to a point that you've given up on discussing this with your family because they're not listening to you, or is it still a continuing discussion for you as of today? So maybe ano, we can ask Manohara first.
Um, um,
I hope the
I
question
think,
was clear. Mhm.
uh, can I start?
Yeah, yeah.
I think we have come a long way. You know, I can see that you know, I can see that later in life, over the years, my mother also can see the rights of women. My relatives can see. Today, there are many of them who see me as a successful person because of how I have, uh, contributed or supported or be part of women who are living, say, for example, free of violence. So I think mothers, aunties, our neighbors, they all can relate. They all can relate if they just, without using the word feminism, without looking at culture or religion, just to use basic common sense. I said, Ma, do you think it is right for the man to beat up his wife for not cooking and break her head like this? So it is very basic. He said, don't she have a right to live without fear? So who is going to, who is, how can women say that, oh, this is what your grandmother went through, so your mother go through, so you go through, so when are we going to break this? So when we discuss, my mother can see it, later in life. Now my mother is not alive, but later she said, my apologies for putting up a fight with you, but I can see the good work that you are doing with women. Continue this. My cousins can see, my friends can see. There are many women who come and join the movement, because I am also part of the movement. I may not be abused by a husband, but I'm open to sexual harassment. I was almost raped. So all these experiences are around us. It is not we here for them, but today is her day, tomorrow is my day. So I guess families, at least my family, they saw that the changes, and they can accept the changes. I am glad that today we are also talking about LGBT rights. I think in those years, the discrimination would have been greater. I mean, I was not part of the LGBT movement then. Now thank you for the sharing also by Jean. And but I also work with the LGBT community here in Malaysia, and I can see that we are fighting, but we are breaking walls. We are building bridges. Because people can see that we are not up against something that is not fair. People can see that this is doing good not only for the women, but for the men, but for the children. So it is a holistic approach. It is a society free from violence. And like somebody rightfully said, it is not even just about gender. The fight is not just between men and women. The fight is between, it is a power relationship. And between two same-sex relationship, sex couple, there can be power relationship. Between you have a maid, a helper in the house, there is power relationship. So it is not only we are up and against only men and women, but it is a whole system, a systematic violence there. So and so I also want to see it beyond gender. I want to see it beyond the fight between men and women. And I'm really thankful to my sister who, who's talking about LGBT right, because I also came from somewhere. In the beginning, I also thought that what LGBT, why are people breaking this family units? But as I learn and I understand, and it is everyone's right to be who you want to be. You're not murdering, you're not raping, you just want to be part of society. So why can't we live in a society that we can accept each other, support each other, and build a beautiful world? So that is what I have to share, Shahira. Thank you.
Thank you, Manohara. So the question again for our next speaker. So let's call on Rena second. Um, we also have it here on the chat. So is it possible to combine our values for feminism and our value for family? And if you've done it, Rena, how? And is it tiring or is it just a continuing discussion for you as well?
Yes, so it is continuing, Chair, but sometimes I also feel tired because for my husband and my children is okay, but for my big family, so because sometimes my mother asked me about how I treat my husband, because you have to respect your husband. And then yeah, as parents, my mother always talk to me, so don't make your husbands angry with you, don't make your husbands thinks that you are not a good wife, something like that. So I have to be a good wife for my husband. Something I feel very tired, but I try to make my mother also see there is no problem between me and my husband, because my husband already uh, accept what the equal values in the family. So yeah, sometimes I feel tired also. Like sometimes my husband also has a patriarchal values. For instance, uh, like on sexual rights. So for my husband said that for men, sexual is very important. So when men want to making love with no, when husband want to making love with a wife, so her wife should understand that this is not this is natural natural, and you have to ready anytime. So sometimes I feel, oh no, not like that, because making love is not only make about a sexual relation, but also emotional relation. If I feel tired, I don't want emotionally, I'm not feel comfortable, so it is not good for you and for me. So sometimes I try to make him understand, and I said that if you love me, you should understand me, and you should uh, not force you should force me to do that you want me to do, something like that. So I have to negotiate with my husband again and again, with sometimes with some cases about like yes, uh, sometimes if I very busy, and then don't have time to talk to discuss to my husband, and then she remind me, so why you are so busy, you don't have time for me, something like that. So sometimes I have to control myself, and sometimes also I have to struggle continuously to implement the feminist value, because sometimes I also want to be I want to show that I am feminist, I have a feminist values in my family, But as because we are in the family, we cannot force our values because we live together for a long time. Yeah, because in Indonesia, family is not only between husband and wife. Family is with the big family. So uh, we should make always strategize uh, how we struggle to internalize feminist values in our family.
Rena?
Yes.
Okay, so we've called Rena, we've called Manohara. Let's proceed to Jean.
Uh, yeah, after the excellent sharing by the two-person before me, I think perhaps for me, how do we continue our feminist work? Perhaps we could be also be more introspective. I think as feminists, we need to hold each other tight. We need to sacrifice we need to practice self-care because as what Rina shared, every day, every minute, continuously, society, family are constantly this violence using language or pressure is a constant thing. It's our continuous struggle. So yeah, I think that should be one of the things that we have to remember while we are constantly fighting this patriarchy out there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Jean. I thought there was a technical problem. Okay,
Oh
so
no.
that thank you. Good point so far. So Yen?
Yes. Um, I have the strategy whenever it comes to discussing different opinions with my parents or my bigger family, including my relatives, that is to putting or questioning things out of the box. So, for example, someone made a comment which can be very classist or can be kind of discriminative based on, for example, background education. So my mother can also question them, and we also like to to echo her to make people think again about their own belief about that. So with that strategy, yes, it's kind of exhausting and tired because all the time, like the three speakers already say that we have to see that this is a long fight. Uh, uh, that every day we need to be persist. So yes, we need to have the strategy to work on that with our family, because when it comes to family, it is not only it's like something we call home, right? We want to keep our home warm in harmony, but also we know that there are many different values in that family that we also have to challenge and change it. So in case I am tired, I would have my own space like for a little bit, get out of the conversation. And then like Jean say, we hold each other tight and we have our own backs to make sure that the sisters have each other in this. Yeah, so that's the key point, especially when it comes to the queer community, where uh, we value also the chosen families beside the biological or blood families. It's very important for us to have the community.
Thank you, Yen. So before we close or before we entertain some questions, picking up on some points that our four guests said, it's a continuous discussion. So it's not just continuous or every day, but it can take years long. So one of the most resonating was from Manohara, that she's 26 today. Right now she's 26, but even though she has struggled earlier with her um family, who are forcing her inside the box again, or forcing her in the box over and over again. Right now they recognize her successes or personal successes, even though it took a long time for them to do that. And I think as fellow 26-year-olds with Manohara, we can look forward to the day for a very long time, while we're continuing on with breaking the silence, or breaking through the silence that patriarchy is trying to enforce upon us. It's going to be a long road, but especially within our families. But while we're there, we're making progress every day, day to day, and that's why we have everyday feminism. And yes, we're almost the same age. I'm 2 years younger than Manu. Okay, so before closing, I believe we have a couple of questions. So um someone was messaging us earlier. So let's call on, is Anja here?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Anja.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My question is pertaining to Yen and June. Me as a pansexual with closeted gay, I'm currently having difficult what to do with my family because they don't know what is pansexuality. Pansexuality is that you love anybody regardless of gender. So as a feminist and as a lesbian, what can you advise to a closeted gay who want to share their gender? And it is another question is that is it just better to keep it yourself? And what are the situations you need to consider before doing the coming out call? Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, Yen, I saw you turn on your mic.
Thank you, Anja. Um, yes, such a big question. Jean, please back me. Yes, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and also your concern with us. And I think yes, I think for our parents, it's also very new for them to unlearn themselves about sexuality, that there is nothing binary, black or white. So in my own experience, it will take a long time for parents to learn about that too. Also, it's not only the labor that we put on ourselves. Labor is important for us, and also at the same time, um, how we can work together with our parents to expand their understanding about the non-binary of sexuality is also another work that I don't think only LGBTQ community should do, but everyone should do, uh, that can support ourselves and also our children, our like the next generations, to not be trapped in the heteronormative society or norms. So there are many, I guess there are many ways to do that, but maybe um, in Vietnam, in my country, it would be the news, the social media, also the discussion between parents that have kids who are LGBTQ children. I think the experience of parents themselves are also valuable when they know that there are other parents that that are already out of the box. So in that case, it will be easier so we can bring the idea of ourselves like who we are to them when they already have their new learning about sexuality already expanded. So that's just my 3 cents of thoughts about that. I understand that is a long journey. It's a long journey for not only our parents but for ourselves too in exploring who we are.
Yeah,
Jean,
I'll
do you
just
have any?
I'll just add on to what Yen said. My 1 cent. Before you come out or you tell them, always make a plan. If you're young and still in school, actually my recommendation is not to come out because you need to give yourself options and a backup plan and kind of try to find out who your allies, your family. So my neighbor came out as a feminist once and the reaction was terrible. So his immediate reaction is like, do you hate men? Do you not want to wear a bra? Are you going to get married? So for LGBT person, there are also, especially a pansexual or lesbian woman, there are also all these expectations around your gender and then your sexual orientation. There's also danger of being kicked out of the family. So you have to do this risk assessment first. Make a plan, talk to your neighbor activists, whatever organization you have around you. Or you can email us. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jean and Yen. Of course, Rena and Manohara, if you have anything to say or anything you want to suggest to our audience, you can also answer or you can also respond. So let's see if we have any more questions. Um, do we over on Facebook or anyone joining us here? So I guess while we're waiting, if there's anything else, okay. So the person who asked, Tess gives her thanks to Yen and Jean for your 4 cents because Yen gave her 3 cents and Jean gave her 1 cent. Okay. So so maybe you have questions, the panelists to each other, guests to each other. You have questions for WLB or Kalyana Mitra, or you want to ask each other. So we have a little some time to spare. Okay, so if you have any, so before, okay, final question before we close or before we wrap up. We'd like to hear our guests once more. So, if you have any advice, I know Yen and Jean all gave their advice to the person who asked their questions, but in general, for those who are watching us and are facing maybe similar challenges or experiences within their family, what advice can you give uh within family struggles, or how can we continue spreading the value of feminism in our everyday lives? So who would want to go first? Rena, maybe.
Yes, so uh, because family is the first place for children to understand about gender. So I concern about how we transfer the gender equality and feminist values to our children. So we have to, for parents, for husband and wife, should give a good example for our children how we equal how we make role divisions equal in doing household work and also in decision making or in anything in the family. We should give the example to our children because if we not give example, if we only talk to our children but we don't give role model, so they don't want to follow us as a parents. So for instance, the husband should give should give example or become a role model for his son, how he he treat me as her wife. So like yes, like my husband should do the domestic work, or my husband has a habit to have a dialogue between a member of family. So not only me and my husband, but also include the children in the dialogue, or we watch movie together, and then we talk each other, and then when we talk each other about the film, maybe we can yes, maybe watching film with in the film there is good values. uh, we can discuss it, and we can explain to our children, because for children in this era, it's in the modern era, it's very difficult to convince them this is the good value. We should do it by a good strategy. For instance, like watching good movie, and then we can teach them. We can have a discussion, because they my children also has uh, uh, they also has values from their school related with LGBT, for instance, because my first son is in has experience in the boarding Islamic boarding school, and then the teacher said that LGBT is a sin, so we cannot accept LGBT. So I cannot teach to my son. So no, you have to accept LGBT. LGBT is a human. So we cannot talk like that. So we I I asked to my husband, and also watching a film about LGBT, and then about the pluralism. I mean, not only LGBT. So I discussed to my children, my son. So you should respect every human, because they are human, and you also, if you want to respect another people, so if you want people respect to you, so you also have to respect another people, including minority groups. So you should respect another religious minorities, because now in Indonesia the religious fundamentalism is rising, and then in Islamic boarding school, many there's conservative educations teach that yes, very conservative values, not respect pluralism, not respect another religion, not respect diversity, something like that. So we should counter the values from the school with our values in the family to our children.
Thank you, Rena. So, last words or last words for our webinar or our everyday feminism. Yen.
I wish that one day we don't have to say that a woman's place is in the resistance anymore. But yes, before we don't have to say that. Uh, let's let's have each other in this as sisters, as feminists. Um, and then if we feel tired or exhausted, we should just take a rest, because we cannot carry everything on our own at the same time. Just give us some time, some space, and then come back.
Thank you, Yen. Yeah. So one day we won't be part of the resistance anymore. Let's all hope. Okay, Jean, since your mic is on.
I laugh because uh, who are we kidding? We'll never be the resistance. But of course, that's a goal, that's a dream, right? So, well, I don't really have any ending words except that I appreciate that this space was created. I realized there are other panels that I'll go back and watch as well. So I wish for more such spaces where feminists can talk to each other and listen to different viewpoints and their struggles as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Jean. And lastly, Manohara, final advice for our viewers.
I think we just have to continue to do this. We just have to keep talking. We just have to go on speaking and saying we must believe that one day the change will come, because it is not that we have not achieved it. If you look through our grandmother's time and today, we have come a very long way. And how did that success came about? It is because people dare to dream and people fought for it, and people were willing to die for it. So I will do as long as I am alive. This is my struggle. For me, it is not a job, but it is my belief, and this is my contribution to the humankind. As a human being, I think every one of us, if we do what we are doing, we will get there. Like today, you can see you're sharing to another young person who is struggling with her sexuality. You are there, you are the support for her. That is already her first support. She knows that at least there are two people in this group, or even more. You don't have to be the LGBT community to support somebody who is struggling with their sexuality. Because it is, I may be a heterosexual person today. I may be open to a woman-woman relationship tomorrow, because we are saying relationship sexuality is fluid. So for me, I really want to get rid of all this labeling. This is a transgender, that is a lesbian, this is a queer, this is a, gay man, this is a MSM. I'm really sick and tired of labels. At the end of the day, we are all human beings who have a right to live in this world with our own human rights, and for people around us to support and help us to live that life, because even I work with the HIV and AIDS sector. I see how people even struggle with just to say that they're living with HIV, and I work with women sex workers. I see how women who are selling their own bodies, it is their own body that they're dealing with. And but yet people have a lot to say. Who are you? My vagina is mine. Let me do what I want to do with it. It's my body. So I'm also sick and tired, but I just will not give up. I will go on speaking. I'll go on sharing. And I want to do this because I have seen we have come a long way. And today I'm so glad that um, you people who are talking about sexuality right are part of this group. At one time I was only talking to women in a heterosexual position. We are born man or woman, this is our gender, we are biologically boy or girl, but which is not true. Then today I learned, oh my God, then where do I put the transgender women? Where do I put my other sisters? So then I also have come a long way, learned a lot. Thank you very much today. I really learned so much from you all. And I thank you to Jelen, who had called me and asked me to be part of this talk today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Manohara. Thank you so much. So, as you can see from the chat, very powerful message, especially the line, "My vagina is mine." Okay, so Ika, anything you want to say?
Hello.
Yeah, Ika.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah. I think we all face various problems and challenges related to how we try to apply the feminist value in our families, and but we choose not to give up, yeah, to continue spreading feminist values. And it starts with like daily activities in our family, for example, while we communicating with the families and setting example, and also become a role model and so on. So Thank you to the guests who have been willing to share with us about stories and experience in their daily lives related to feminism and family. We got a lot of interesting stories and experience, and hopefully what has been shared can be a life learning for all of us. And also thank you to the participant on Zoom or on Facebook who have participated. Hopefully our discussion this afternoon will provide a lot of insight and get inspiration on how we tackle the misconception of feminism and family. Shahira.
Yeah. So again, we extend our thanks to Yen, Rena, Jean, and Manohara for sharing with us today your personal experiences and your contributions to this to our program Everyday Feminism. Once again, we're um, happy to learn more stories about feminists who you know are fighting every day or working on our advocacy.
Feminism, a
But
way of life.
uh, uh, what's this? Fighting every day or working on our advocacies, and still, uh, we have our own struggles in our own homes, in our families. So thank you. It's a continuous discussion. It's a continuous work. And as Yen once earlier said, we shall hope that one day we won't be part of the resistance anymore. So thank you for sharing this space. We hope to see you all next week to our viewers for another episode of our Everyday.
Feminism, a way of life. Thank you.
Salamat.
Thank you so much. Take care and be
Bye.
safe.
Uh, don't uh, don't leave yet. How do I stop this? Oh, I'm not the host. I can't stop the live.